Today we're taking a look at 3 different creative ways that you guys can use a Starlink mini setup like this on pretty much any vehicle. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Talon and I make new videos every single week. So if you are into vehicles, outdoor adventures, and everything in between, then consider clicking subscribe. Today I decided to get into a little bit of the technology gear that I bring with me on pretty much every single adventure, and it mainly revolves around this guy right here, a Starlink mini dish. Now, I've talked about Starlink a little bit in the past, but this one is kind of new to me. I've had it for a couple of months now, and I've been searching different ways to get the most out of using this thing on all different vehicles. You guys know the main 3 that I travel in are, of course, my van, my Tundra, and my Tacoma. And I needed to find a creative solution to take this thing off of one vehicle, attach it to another nice and quickly, find a way to power it. That way I can stay connected while I'm out on the road. Now, the reason that I went with the mini is because this is, of course, an all-in-one unit and it can be powered with pretty low voltage. I don't need an AC brick. You can use USB-C cables, and this one is just a little bit more versatile. It's not going to give me the amount of speed that I had with my older dish. The larger, probably Gen 3 dishes that they're on now are going to offer speeds much higher than something like this, but I'm just using this to simply stay connected while I'm on the road. I am using it to work, and I'm even uploading 4K YouTube videos like this one right here. As soon as I'm done with this, I'm going to upload it through this Starlink on this vehicle. So this does everything that I need, and thanks to this new mounting solution, it makes swapping the dish between vehicles nice and easy. So this company, Trio Flatmounts, they reached out to me and they said, hey, we would like to send you one of our products, no strings attached. They didn't ask me to really make this video or anything. They just saw that I had a Starlink and I decided to give it a shot, and I am glad that I did. So this right here is the Trio Flat Mount. They call this one their speed mount, and it is perfectly fit for a Starlink mini dish. This is probably one of the most sturdy and stylish mounting solutions that I've seen for the Mini. I actually bought a kind of cheap one over on Amazon, and it did not fit this thing very well at all. I actually only drove around with it on top of my vehicle one time before I got nervous. I felt like it was going to fly off up at high speeds. This thing, however, is incredibly solid. It's very low profile and it protects the dish on all 4 sides. And even though it is in the speed mount, it is still compatible with the kickstand or a pole mount if you decide to use something like that. This mount is made out of a waterproof and UV thermoplastic, so it's not going to warp in the sun, because obviously this thing is made to be sitting outside. It's offered in both white and black, a few different options. You can add the additional polycarbonate top on here to add a little bit more protection. And then for the mounting options, there's a lot of different things that you can work with, like suction cups being one of them. This is a creative solution that I'm actually not going to be covering in this video. However, I have used a Starlink like this simply sitting on my dashboard. Depending on the vehicle, it may or may not work, and using it in motion, that's a whole nother story. But with a suction cup mount, I could stick this to the windshield, or if you have a moonroof or a sunroof like this truck does, as long as you don't have anything up on the roof like a rack, you could actually stick this to a sunroof and get connection like that, which would be a really cool and creative setup in my opinion. I instead opted for this option right here, which are these heavy duty magnetic feet. They are about 3 inches in diameter. And then since I knew I was going to be putting it on a bunch of different vehicles that in some cases have aluminum racks on top and boxes, things like that, I also opted for some of these steel discs right here. These have a 3M VHB on the back. Once you stick these things down, as long as you prep the surface properly, they are probably not going to come off. I'm actually using these in 2 of my applications, which we will get into, and it's nice that you can actually order them from Trio, because I tried sourcing things like this online before and I couldn't find anything that was a perfect fit. These obviously work just as they should. Now I have a few different setups running from something pretty simple up to something a little bit more complex and even hidden like this vehicle. So let's dive into it, and at the same time let's do a little bit of a speed test as well. Keep in mind, this thing is not going to affect the speed at all. It just depends on where it's at, your location in the country, the weather, the direction it's facing, and things like that. But since we're talking about Starlink in this video, we might as well show you what kind of speeds we can get at the same time. Now for the first setup, this is probably going to be the most common for me because this is like a mobile home wherever I go. This is my 2023 Storyteller. It's a Mercedes Sprinter van, and this setup is going to be probably the most straightforward out of any of them, and it's something that you guys could probably find a use for on your own vehicle. So of course I have this thing mounted up way up there on the roof, so super high. Connection should be fairly good. Let's first check out the power though. You can see the corner of the Starlink up there on my roof rack, and I'm just simply running the power cable down into the side of the van behind my bug screens over here. And in this case, I'm using a 12 volt plug right here. I don't actually love these 12 volt ports because they're never like super tight. You can tell it's kind of spring loaded and it can pop out of there. I've been using this setup for about 2 weeks between traveling to Utah and then back here in Colorado when we're on some pretty gnarly trails, washboard roads, and I'm really shaking the van around. This thing did actually pop out a few times, so to make this setup better, I would probably swap out this 12 volt like cigarette port for a USB-C. I think USB-C holds the connection a little bit stronger, and I think it would just be a little bit more streamlined, but that is where this is getting power. Now let's head up to the roof. The entire roof of my van is walkable, so there's a lot of usable space up here. I have some things like an old second gen dish mount. So I was previously using like a full-blown Starlink. I have a mount for an umbrella. I've got my fan, 90 watt solar, front runner, Wolfpack box over here. And then on top of my air conditioner, I have a Canyon Adventure van system, which has 2 seats. There's seats that flip up there and right here. Since this is the tallest point on the van, I just stuck some of those pucks down right to the roof rack material. And this thing is insanely solid, not going anywhere. So this gives me connection at all times while the vehicle is in motion, which is a nice touch when you're traveling through kind of some remote areas in the country. I just have the cable running out the back, down into that back door, and it works because it allows me to still move it around. If I wanted to take this setup just a step further, there's actually an auxiliary port underneath my solar panel, and if I got the proper plug, I could wire it directly into there and then turn on the Starlink with a button found on my galley. I don't think I will end up doing that because it's just easy the way that this is, but maybe in the future, if I wanted it to be like a little more streamlined and permanent, I could do that. Now we might as well do a little bit of a speed test, and this is going to vary because I'm going to be testing this out on different vehicles in different areas of the country. Right now we of course have no trees, no bad weather or anything blocking signal. It's also going to depend on the time of use. It's currently about 10:30 in the morning, so let's run a quick speed test and see what we got. I'm pointed generally north right here, maybe a little bit northwest. You kind of want it to be pointed north and south, so parking your vehicle is kind of going to depend on that. At the end of the day, it's never going to be exactly ideal, but if I wanted to make it even a little bit better, I could actually flip this up. So since this is on sort of a hinge mechanism, it actually is held down with Velcro, and I could position this up just ever so slightly and get the angle that Starlink requires, but since it's flat mount, I basically just keep it like that. Now, let's run a little speed test. We are connected and online, just one device, my cell phone connected to it right now. We'll go into speed test, and they actually changed the screen of this, so it's kind of cool. You can like see it slowly tracking satellites. I don't know if that's actually legit or if it's just some kind of graphic, so we're going to click start. Speeds are slowly ramping up. There we go. Now we're over 100, 113 down, and about 20-ish up. Let's see what it finishes with. All right, so we ended with 113 down, 8 up, 31 millisecond for the latency, which is not bad. It's good enough for me to have connection no matter where I'm going. I will say that in my testing over the past 2 weeks, that is a little bit low. Again, it depends on where you're at in the country, how many of the satellites are being used at this current time, but that would be enough for me to upload 4K YouTube videos. It would just take me a little while, which is fine. Now to get this thing off for the next setup, you will notice how strong these magnets are. It's honestly a little bit difficult to pull it off of there, which is good. Here's that 12 volt cable can simply disconnect that and now take this to another vehicle. Since this connection is not like water sealed when it's out here by itself, not plugged into anything, I will actually remove this cable and just store it inside of the van until I'm ready to use the Trio flat mount on the van again. And now moving on to the Tundra. You would think with this setup, I have my anti-shanty dwell shell on here, you would think that I would just kind of like put it up on the top there, but there's a reason why I didn't do that, and I did something different, but you can't really see it right now. So if we take a little climb up here to the top of the anti-shanty, got a Dometic fan, got a Zamp solar and roof rails. Right in between my roam boxes here is where I have the Trio mount. Now I thought at first these boxes being so close here would cause an obstruction, but I realized that since they're plastic and I don't have a ton of metal gear inside of here, it actually does work in this area. I may be limiting my connectivity a little bit, but if I were to put this on top of one of these boxes, the magnet feet aren't long enough to come down here, so I would have to run some spacers and things like that. The 3M pucks don't like sticking to plasticky material like that, so figured this would be next best bet. The question is, how am I getting power to this thing now? And you can kind of see the cable running down this way, and it's actually going into the dwell shell. So since I have solar on top of this camper, I have it constantly feeding into a little power station over here, currently the DJI 1000. You will notice I'm pulling between like 28 and 30 some watts there for the output, and the only thing that is taking an output right now is the Starlink. Currently taking in about 33, so I'm losing. This is actually going down, but the sun just started coming up, so I was able to get back up to about 78% on battery, and I could basically leave the Starlink plugged in all the time, and then the solar should have enough to keep this thing topped up. So a really cool feature about this camper is this back window here. It slides open and kind of can act as a pass through to the truck if I have that open. However, if the window is dirty, which it kind of is right now, it is super dusty out here. Two little latches right here, and this entire window drops out. I don't want to pull it all the way out because right now I'm currently pinching that with a little bit of tension. So this USB-C cable here running from the Starlink comes in through there, and then when I lock this window, kind of holds it tight. I just have that running down underneath my cabinet here, straight over here into the battery. And yeah, in this case, I'm using a USB-C plug as opposed to a 12 volt. I'm using a cigarette like 12 volt outlet to power everything else in here, all of my Kingpin lights, as well as a Dometic fan up there, a USB port, USB-Cs and USB-A up in the actual dwelling section. So the USB-C cable for Starlink is probably my favorite in most applications. I could plug it into just like a little handheld battery bank, and as long as it can output a little bit of wattage, it'll run for a little bit of time and you can be connected. Now let's do things a little bit different this time. Let's do a in-motion speed test with it mounted, with my boxes like partially obstructing it. It's really not a huge deal, but I'm curious to see what speeds we get in the area that I'm at. Very mountainous around here, zero cell coverage. I am connected to the Starlink and I'm driving like 35 miles an hour through some twisty mountain roads. So let's click start. It's pretty good for now anyway. I saw it jump up to 200 there. Now it's going a little bit lower. And this is going to vary a lot, but especially in these mountainous regions, it's not going to be the best while I'm moving. And came to a stop there. So 49 down, 15 up, 29 milliseconds, and again, driving, moving, doing like 35 miles an hour through an area with zero connection. I'd say that's good enough to allow me to navigate, check out Onyx off-road and things like that, and make some calls and text messages if I need to. And now finally for my last setup, probably the most creative, definitely the most hidden, but we might be jeopardizing on connection just a little bit. Where is the Starlink at on my Tacoma? There is one kind of dead giveaway and really only one place where it could be on this setup. Let's pop up here and take a look at the top of the tent. Just a big solar panel up there, 290 watt solar, which is actually providing power for the Starlink right now. Nothing on top of the boxes, so of course it must be right where this little cable is here. So for the Tacoma setup, I decided to go a little bit stealthy and very much hidden. I have the Trio Flatmount mounted inside of my roam box, which lives on the roof. I don't have anything else in here right now. The other side houses some of my recovery gear, air up, air down things. But I noticed that these boxes, I believe these are the 93 liter roam boxes, they are made out of plastic. And even though I have a lid organizer in here, there's really no metal in it. And the Starlink is able to shoot right through the box and actually have connection even when the box is closed. Now down here, you will notice the roam mounts that I have mounted up to my Sherpa roof rack. There's actually a drain plug in there. So I unscrewed the drain plug and just stored it away up here. And then I ran the power cable from the Starlink out that drain hole and then down underneath my rack. It then runs down through the door seal right here behind my rear seats, and I have that plugged into my battery source. In this case, this is a Anker Solix C1000 USB-C cable, same as the Tundra, and that thing is pumping right now. Total draw right now is about 49 watts, well, 11 watts now. I have the Starlink and some batteries plugged in here. Also, I'm running the fridge off of this battery, and the solar is what is feeding into this right here, sitting on top of my cargo system. So I knew on the trip that I'm currently on, I wanted to have the Starlink to be able to be used while in motion, and I figured it would be kind of cool to hide it in the box there. The Starlink app will say that there are obstructions. We can actually check it out right now. It does work while I'm driving around, but I think maybe it could work a little bit better when I'm at camp. So typically I will just leave my box open like that on my roof when I'm parked at a camp spot. And of course, when the tent's popped, I can reach out of my tent and open the box too. So it's kind of a convenient setup, but let's see how the speed tests are right now. I'm currently pointed, which direction am I facing? I don't even know. That's west. So I'm facing east to west right now, which is not ideal. You should be facing north to south, but let's see if we can check out some speeds. So you'll notice that the Starlink is online and it will say that it is obstructed. So let's check out what that actually looks like. You can tell it's mainly blue, which is a clear view, and then all of the little red spotting throughout it, those are obstructions. And even though there are obstructions, it does still work. I'm not sure what speeds we will get in the area that I'm at. This is going to fluctuate all the time, but just for curiosity's sake, let's run a speed test. Start. We shot over 100 megabits there for just a second. And this is with the box open, by the way. A little bit slower on the upload speed where I'm currently at, also not facing the correct direction. And there we go. So 87 down, 8 up, 32 latency. Not the greatest, not going to be as good as a Starlink dish that is not a mini, but it's nice and hidden. I stuck some of the magnetic feet in the box so it doesn't slide around. And these speeds are decent enough that I can still work while I'm on the road. I can take phone calls, even FaceTime. I can cruise on the internet, and this speed is plenty fast enough, at least for what I need. I actually uploaded a 4K 30-minute YouTube video on a connection about like this, and it did take a while. I started the upload overnight, and then when I woke up in the morning, it was complete. The box was closed while I did that, so in a pinch, it definitely works. I wouldn't want to live with internet like that all of the time, but I think for kind of a creative, stealthy setup, having the Trio flat mount inside of a roam box with the cable sort of hidden in the truck, you don't even know it's there. I could lock the box, that way it would be safe from thieves who might climb up on top of a vehicle and rip it off. Don't do that. Don't be that kind of human being. But if you're worried about the obstructions, you could always just stick some of the feet right on top of your box and have it out in the open. That way you don't have to worry about shooting through a plastic box. I think it's cool. I'm gonna run it like that probably the entire time. I have those boxes up there on my truck. So those are my 3 creative solutions for having a Starlink Mini with me on basically any vehicle using the Trio flat mount speed mount. Hopefully this gave you guys some insights on a pretty cool product. If you have a dish of your own and you want to support a pretty cool, rad, small company, then check them out. I will leave a link to their website in the description down below. And if you guys have any questions on any mounting setup that we talked about, or if you have any questions on Starlink, drop them in the comments down below. I'll try to answer them as best as possible. So that's all that I had for today. If you guys are new to this channel, again, please consider clicking subscribe, slap a like on this video if you enjoyed it, and I'm gonna get this thing plugged back in so I can get some work done. As always, thank you for watching. I'll talk to you in the next one.